and just welcome everyone here tonight. Very glad to have you. We have Dominic with us here from Checklick. He is our account manager. Um, and just if you can keep your mics muted, we would really appreciate that. And we'll be good to go. Dominic,
Yeah, let me
the
just
presentation.
yeah, I'm gonna share my screen here and start off with the presentation. And first of all, thank you for having me here. As Tennille mentioned, I am your account manager for the account. We'll go through some of your resources when it comes to Checklick. I'm like sort of the point of contact for Jamie and Tennille. For usually our quickest responses, you go through our support channel. But we'll go through all of those resources as we move along with the presentation. So just to start here, I'm just sharing my screen here. And just so everyone knows, because I know sometimes these presentations, you want to sort of remember things, write things down, not to worry about that because we've got a note taker being taken here. And furthermore, we're recording this session and you'll actually have like a landing page that you'll be able to go to so that you can actually refer back to this if you have any sort of questions and use it as reference. And again, this will all be recorded, so no need to worry about sort of frantically trying to write down everything here. So Tennille, maybe if we start off with the land acknowledgement here.
Perfect. We'd like to begin today's session by acknowledging that the land which the National Office of the Navy League of Canada is based on is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. For us who are settlers or descendants of settlers, it is important to recognize and affirm that from coast to coast, these lands that we call Canada are the territories of First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people. The Navy League of Canada is committed to deepening our understanding of Indigenous peoples' rich and diverse cultures and histories. As we gather this evening in this virtual space, we recognize that each of us is joining from different territories and Indigenous lands. In the spirit of respect, reconciliation, and truth, we invite you to take a moment to reflect on the lands you are on. You may choose to share your acknowledgement in the chat, speak it aloud, or simply hold that reflection privately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Tennille. Um, So for today's session, we want to make sure that we cover everything because we do have a 1 hour block here, and we want to make sure. I know it's the evening hour, so everyone probably wants to get to whatever else you need to do this evening. So what we'll cover today is a bit of everything. We'll touch on all of the functionality within Checklick. We'll start off by logging in as a core manager, and then we'll go through the entire process of what it looks like after you create your core account, and then how to license a checklist. And by checklist, that means all of the different checklists that the Navy League has to offer. And I think there's about 13 of them or so. So there's quite a few. We'll go through that so you can see exactly what that process looks like. Secondly, once you do that, the functionality of a manager, you can do a variety of things that other permission levels don't allow you to, like, for example, an evaluator. In your case, all of the core managers, so when you create your account, you'll also be the evaluator. Evaluator meaning you'll be able to perform evaluations on the cadets. So I'll show you how to, within that manager account, I'll show you how to add people to your account, and you can do that by one. We'll touch on the self-registration part, but we'll save that for a little bit later because this will be phase two, where in the main login page, each one of your cadets will be able to go to like the main page and actually register themselves for each one of your course. And then when it comes to the evaluator functionality, I mean, this is sort of the meat of the operation here because you have this is in within this functionality you can start evaluating all the cadets, and you can do that one by one group, and then you can send certificates and progress reports. So I'll show you how to do that. I also have this part here, which is the logbook, which is phase two. So Tennille sort of talked about that. And that'll be incorporated again into phase two, and we can touch upon that a little bit, but we won't focus on that in this particular presentation. But a logbook is just something that each one of the cadets can sort of log their own progress based on a template that the Navy League can create. Okay. And then the final part will be what the cadet account actually looks like. So, what do things look like from their end when they log in after the core manager, the evaluator, performs any of the evaluations on the cadet? What does that look like from their account or the parent's account that would be logging into those accounts? From there on in, we'll jump into the help resources. As I mentioned earlier on, I am the account manager. However, there's a lot of resources within Checklick that you can access, to help you along with your as you're performing various functionality. We have a support channel that you can send a support email ticket to, and that serves everybody, both the core managers, the division managers, but also each one of the cadets and the parents. So we support the entire ecosystem. If there's anybody that has any questions, requires any support, you fire off an email to us and we help you out with that. Then we'll also go through some of the resources you have from the Navy League and some of the national team leads, which Tennille provided. Okay. Following that, we will go into a Q&A session, but we do want to first get through the functionality because again, I don't want to stick you guys here any longer than we need to be. So we'll go through it. Save all the questions for the end, unless Tennille, if you want to jump in as I go through each one of the different permission levels. Okay.
I think questions at the end is a good idea. So keep going.
Excellent. Okay, so let's start by logging in here. So I mentioned that there is a phase two, which will allow each one of your cadets to actually register to like create their own accounts and then register. In phase one, all you have at the moment here is how to log into your core accounts. When you create a cadet, when you add a cadet to your database within your core, they'll be able to log in through here as well. So effectively, this page here, which will be provided by Tennille and the Navy League right on the website, you can access everything through here. Okay. So the first thing is I'm going to log in as the core manager. Now the core manager here is John Smith 123. We kept it real simple. Okay, so here we go. So now I am logged in as John Smith. And you could see here, so that's the personal profile for John Smith. If I go into the people page, I did a little bit of work here just to kind of get things started. You'll notice that the very first thing here is if I go to John Smith here, you'll notice that John Smith created this fictitious core test facility of Ontario. Okay, and you'll notice I mentioned that both the manager is also the manager for this test facility, who is John Smith, is also the evaluator. So meaning that they can perform evaluations on any of the checklists or the programs that I license from any of the divisions. So you could see here, John Smith over here has that permission level. And then if I go back to the people page just up top here, you can see that there's another evaluator here, Mary Anderson, but then also we have three other cadets here. And I wanted to sort of set this up in advance just to show you the functionality. But the very first thing that you'll need to do after you create your account, the way that it would look if you create your core manager account, you will log in here. You won't see anybody in here, but you will automatically be the evaluator, just like John Smith. But then if you need to add anybody else into here, you'll just have to click this plus icon and start adding people. Now, before you do that, you can sort of do this in conjunction with licensing the checklist. So you can add people to your facility here at any time. But in order to start performing any evaluations, you see here how there is no program checklist to evaluate on here. So what you'll need to do is if you go up to the checklist tab right up here, the third tab from the left, so you click on checklists, and over here, I'm just going to do a search here for level one. Okay. Now, here's the key. I am the core test facility of Ontario. So you'll notice that I'm going to see all the available levels through
Why are
all.
they all
Oh, so you'll be able to see all the divisions here. So you want to make sure that you license the checklist here. So for example, I'm looking at the level one over here, training. So I want to do that from the Navy League of Canada Ontario division. Okay. So as soon as I request that license, um, you can see here that it'll tell you all the licensing terms. And then when you go ahead and click request the license, I have somebody else on the other end here that's helping me out with this. And they're going to then, you see over here how as soon as I did that, it says license requested. Now, if I get the thumbs up from my helper here, I can just refresh the page here, and you'll notice that when I refresh the page, and by the way, I say refresh page, but there's an email that goes out to the Ontario division, and the Ontario division gets the email. From there on in, they'll click on a link in the email to either grant or deny the license. Once they grant you the license, you will receive an email that will let you know your license for the level one training has been accepted. And now you can see that now this level is licensed. So now that the level is licensed, if I click on the People tab here, and I go back, you see how now I have the level one training available. So now as soon as I had that license go out and that license was accepted, I now have the ability to then start performing evaluations on this. Now, as I mentioned, there is a variety of levels here. So, I only licensed one of them, but you'll need to license all the different levels which will be provided, which ones are the ones that are available, for example, from the Navy League of Ontario division. Okay. So if I go back to the People tab here, as I mentioned, what I can do is I can now start adding people either one by one. Okay. So if I click over here and I go add one person, I just fill out their information and I add that person. When I do add that person, they receive an email that lets them know that the test facility of Ontario has created an account for them, and it'll give them details about their account and how to actually log into that account. You can see here that I created 3 cadets already, Christine, Jenny, and Jim. So I've already gone through that process and added them in here. If you prefer to add people via spreadsheet, you can do that as well. And if you click on add multiple people via spreadsheet here, you can see that you can click on download the spreadsheet template, and it'll give you a template that you can then upload, and it'll upload each one of those people and display them in the people page here. Okay. So once those people are in this page, in the people page here, what you can do is, for example, because I am now logged in as John Smith, who is the manager but also the evaluator, so an instructor that can perform evaluations. I can now perform evaluations either one by one individually, or I can use something which we call group evaluation. And the way that that works is, for example, for Christine here, if I wanted to go into the level one, let's say the CTS 01 and LCC, if I click on this here, okay, just the very first level, and I open up the very first level, here are all the available grades that I can select. So for example, you'll notice that in each one of the sections here, 1.1 rank structure, I can then tick off each one of these here. And as soon as I do that, I can save this. And for example, like let's just go and select that and I'll click on save. Now it's going to tell me that it's save that. Now, if I go over here, you'll notice that there's an option here to download this checklist. And what this is if I click on the checklist here, it's going to bring up a PDF version of of this here. So let me just show you what that looks like. So this is what the PDF version of that. Now, we only checked off this one skill. So in this particular, you see here on December 8th, this skill was evaluated. But this is what it'll look like to each one of your cadets. And I'll show you just a little bit later on how to actually send this progress to each one of those cadets. So if you, for example, have 10 or 15 cadets where you've performed evaluations throughout the week, you can select those cadets and send these sort of progress reports for each one of the cadets. Okay. If, for example, I wanted to award this entire level, what I could do is I can go over here. You see how it says status in progress? Now it's showing in progress because we just less than a minute ago we performed that evaluations. But if I go to achieved, it's going to tell me that it's going to auto complete everything. And I have the option to auto complete all of those skills or don't auto complete. But let's say, for example, I go to autocomplete and I save that. What will happen now is not only am I able to download the checklist, but there's also an automatically generated certificate here. So if I click on this download this certificate here and I open that up, you'll see that there's a certificate that is printed for that particular, for Christine here. Okay. So if I go back to here and I go back to the people page, you'll notice that over on Christine's profile, if I look at this checklist here, the very first level here now has a full star, meaning that we've completed that level. That level has been marked as achieved for Christine. So that's how I do that individually for Christine. But now let's say I wanted to perform an evaluation on a group. In this case, we're going to do it to the three people here. So I'm just going to use this checkbox here to select Christine, Jenny, and Jim. Okay. And when I do that, if I go over here to group evaluation, let's say I'm now going to evaluate the CTS 02. Okay. If I click on that and select the group evaluation, you notice up top here how I now have the three cadets that I selected. So that means that what I can do is if I go to Christine, I can perform an evaluation here specifically only on Christine's profile. Or I can flip over to Jenny and perform individually on Jenny, or I can select all. And for example, then I can go to, let's say I select this, and now you're just going to get a little warning that tells you, by the way, you are now performing this evaluation for three people. It's going to affect their three, all three of those people's checklists, not just the person, one person. So if I select yes, I'm aware, and I click on continue, and then I go to save, now you'll notice that if I go back to the people page, see over here how now Christine, Jenny, and Jim, I now have this little half star under CTS 02, meaning that that level is in progress. So there's effectively three states. You can see that there's an open star, meaning that there's no evaluation performed on there. It's not been started. There's this half star, which is in progress. But we also know that on Christine's here, we also performed an evaluation and marked her CTS 01 as fully completed. Okay. So now that we perform these evaluations, if you have more than one checklist, which you'll have level one, you'll have level two, so on, and each one of those checklists, all you'll need to do is select the corresponding checklist that will be listed horizontally here next to the person, and then you just select that checklist and perform that evaluation. So once you start licensing all those other checklists, you'll see them all listed over here, and you can select each one of them. Okay. So let's say that throughout the week I'm performing of various evaluations here, and let's say I wanted to send progress to those three students. So if I have these three students selected, what I can do is I could just go to compose email, and now what I can say is fantastic job, your progress for the week is attached. And what will happen is when I select, for example, the checklist PDF for CTS02, each one of those students that I perform the evaluation on will receive their own individual checklist and evaluation. So they will receive three separate emails. So each one of those students, Christine will get an email that will say, fantastic job, your progress for the week is attached, but she will only see the progress for her particular checklist, not any of the other students. Okay, so as you can see, the cadets can receive their progress at any time. Additionally, I'm showing you sort of the communication from you over to the cadets once you start performing those evaluations. However, keep in mind that each one of the cadets can log into their individual accounts and actually view those evaluations. So, for example, for these evaluations that we've performed here, for example, for Christine, what I can do is I can just I'm going to log out of the core test facility, and I'm going to log into Christine's account. Okay. Oops. Yikes. Okay. I guess I'm not getting that right. So we'll log back in uh, as the manager. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the password for Christine. So if I go back to the people page and I go over to Christine, what I can do here is I'm just going to do it all lowercase, and then I'll select Christine Cadet, and then I'm going to just reset the password to the same thing. I'll save the profile. So now if I log out and I log in as Christine, now under Christine's profile, you can see that I can see the progress as the cadet, or again, this could be the parent. So the parent will be able to see, or the cadet, the progress here. So I can go into each one of these. I can print my own certificate. I can print the checklist and share that anywhere. The difference you'll notice is that I don't have the ability to perform any changes here because that can only be done from the evaluator at the core manager level. Okay. So this is what it looks like from the cadet level. And they can log in here again, themselves or their parents can log in here and view that progress, and they can change any of their account information here. But the key thing here is this is how they can view their progress. Again, now we're only showing level one, but once you have additional levels here and all those 13 different checklists, Christine will be able to see her progress throughout each one of those here. Okay. So from here on in, I could take some questions because we'll get into the resources here, but I think this is a good time to take some questions from all of you. Oh, come on. I know I didn't do that good of a job. Someone has to.
I'll bring it up first.
Okay.
Bob Lackman, Vancouver Island Division. This page you're on right now, this is a cadets page.
Correct.
So in there's a position that says affiliate with another organization. So they can join another organization. Is that
Yeah.
what that's saying?
Yes, they can join another organization, and other organizations can remove their affiliation, but the cadet themselves has full autonomy of their account, and sort of if they can remove their affiliations with another organization. It's sort of part of the privacy policy that we have.
If I
Okay.
can just chime in for a sec, Bob, just expand on that. I have a sail instructor that is doing the Sail Canada program, and I've got a lot of cadets that have signed up through Checklick for Sail Canada to track their progress. They will also then be on the Navy League side of this, so they can see both organizations through that same profile.
But that's a Navy League cadet, or is that an adult?
So
You're
it's
talking
it's
about?
the adult's email address that's set up with that profile. So if I use the same email address for the cadet, they will see both sets of progress, not only from Sail Canada, but also through the Navy League because they're tied to the same profile.
Yeah, maybe that's a really good point about the email. The one thing to clarify is that a parent can use the same email address for all of their children. It's just that each one of the children will have their own separate account because each one of those separate accounts will house different different progress through each one of their levels. Okay. Um, I see Neil here.
Yes, thank you. One quick question I had is when the cadet receives an email, is it a no reply, generic from address, or is it the email address of the commanding officer?
That's exactly it. So it's of the commanding officer who is the manager of that corps. So that's where the email comes from. So if they reply, it will be directly to that email.
Thank you.
Okay. Good question. I have Nipra here.
I have a quick question. Can you take us through the adding the evaluators? Because you talked briefly, like the person who goes in and enters the information is automatically an evaluator. But if we have other evaluators, can we get those added? And is it the same as adding the kids?
We're
Um,
actually go ahead, Dominic.
I was going to ask you to chime in.
Oh, okay.
This,
Okay. Yeah, we only have one evaluator per core at the moment. Um, we have 100 evaluators across the country, so each core only has one evaluator right now. So that is the commanding officer right now at this moment, plus the division commanders. Um, the logistics of figuring out the next steps to adding evaluator is still under conversation. So just at this point, each core only gets one evaluator.
okay. Jim, you have a question? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah, not anymore.
Okay.
Just wondering about this. Is this something that we can also use as a database for branch members? Because of their time they serve and what they've done and everything else. I know we're focusing on cadets and officers and everything else, but I've learned when I was division president as well that lots of award stuff and just who was really who and what their skills were fell through the cracks. We didn't have any real records. It was up to the branches, and not everything was really kept very accurate, to be honest.
So
Jim, it's sorry, I can answer that, Dominic.
okay.
Jim, that is
Yeah.
we're looking at things down the road, 2.0, 3.0. But yes,
Yeah.
because of the database properties of this platform, that is definitely something that we're looking at.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, what I'm seeing with the cadet stuff and everything else, few things to work out, but nothing really. It'll work well. And I'm just thinking, as you say, expand it to the people we always forget about, or the civilians behind it that help out.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for jumping in, Brett. Any other? I don't see any hands up. Any other questions?
I had one quick question. Um, sorry. When you add the cadets, can you pick they like if they're level one training, do they have a checklist for each of the levels? Or can you just have like if they're in level one and then when they advance to level two, you can add the next one? Or like do they see all the checklists at the same time?
They see all of the checklists. So once I add a person in here, once I add a cadet in here, you'll be able to see all the levels here and perform an evaluation on all of those levels. And likewise, when they go into their profile, if you perform an evaluation on those levels, they'll be able to see that entire checklist, not just the individual level.
No, I'm sorry. Like if they're level one, they can see the level one training, but will they see like the awards checklist? Will they see the stores checklist? Will they see each of those checklists?
Yes, they
Not just the
will.
list in each checklist, but like each individual checklist.
They will see each individual checklist when the facilities, so when the manager, the core manager, actually licenses all of those checklists, they will see all of the checklists here. Okay. Uh, Greg, you have your hand up?
There we go. You guys hear me? Yeah. So we said it was one parent's email address, and they could have multiple children, 4 children, or whatever. When a child wants to log in, does each one of them have a separate password or something and tied to that same email address, or do they see their potential siblings' files, or how does that work? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, very good question. So each one of the accounts has the email address that's affiliated with the account. However, they have a different username. So it's the username that they would need to log. So the parent or the individual cadet could then log into those individual profiles via the different username. However, because you're using the same email address, when you're resetting your password for those accounts, you'll receive a separate email for each one of those accounts, but you'll see the username identifying, each one of the account holders. Okay. Randy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. I might be a little behind on this. So you have the three levels, and the level that's John Smith, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like a provincial person, or is that in Ottawa? And does he like own it? Like if that person changes out, leaves the program, is it easy to swap in, or is it kind of locked with him?
Oh, okay. Another great question. So you can change manager permissions to anyone else. So there's ways that when other individuals within your, like for example here, if there was other individuals that were here, like Mary Anderson, and now Mary needed to take over as the manager for John, then Mary can request manager permissions from John. So none of the information is lost from the accounts or anything like that. You just simply do a swap of the managers, which then changes permission levels over to Mary.
Okay, so what if that person, whoever leaves in a huff and is not cooperative?
So we have various ways to do that. So you the very first thing is you can just request those manager permissions. That if that other person denies those manager permissions, we have stages in which we do those. So you have to send a support email to us. Then further from that, we would have to go higher above and request a letter or an email from an authority that is above that particular person for that facility. And then we would facilitate the change via our support channel where it's all documented and we see exactly the chain of things that happened.
Okay, and the manager would be like I'm from Alberta, so it would be somebody in Alberta, then would be the manager of all the cores in Alberta kind of stuff, or is it more like it's someone in Ottawa puts it together, or is it by core, or just I guess I
So
just don't understand how the organization kind of works here.
that's okay, Randy. Each division commander is the manager for each division. And then from that, each division commander can see all of their cores, and then only a CO can see the cadets within their core. But the division commander is the
Right.
like Alberta manager of the
Yeah.
Alberta organization.
Okay, that's perfect. That's where I was just a little confused. That's
No
awesome. Thank
problem.
you.
Yeah, thanks for jumping in, Tennille. Pat, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back to the checklist again for a second. If as a manager I select or I license, let's say level 1, 2, and 3 training, which we have available here,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't it then be me assigning each cadet that training checklist? It wouldn't automatically go to all cadets within the Corps?
It would be available for all the cadets within the Corps. So
Okay.
when you request that license and that license is granted, so now you would see level 1, you would see level 2, level 3, and
Hmm.
one of those would be made available for all the cadets. However, they would not have any progress in them until the evaluator goes in and performs any evaluations on those.
So a
Okay. And so,
brand new cadet would have the 13 checklists. So they'd
okay.
have level 1 to 6 right away, but perhaps they're only working on level 1. If you're
Yep.
coming in at level 3, then you'd have maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, and nothing in 1 and 2 kind of thing.
Exactly. So over here, when we would
Okay.
look at the progress, maybe it wouldn't be quite so linear within the checklist here, but you would be able to see the progress throughout each one of those checklists.
Okay. One other question. Is there an ability to have a checklist that's associated with the Corps, but isn't necessarily visible to the cadets for like internal tracking, other things? And I don't have a good example off the top of my head right now. It's just a question. Is that something
So
that's available right now or not really?
Uh, it is. So that's a separate service that would be directly with Checklick. So in other words, we work with the Navy League of Canada, and they have an unlimited number of checklists that they can create. And I'm sure the preference would be that you would be using all of those.
Yeah.
If you choose to create your own, you can create your own, and that's a service that you basically license directly from Checklick. So there's a fee for that for like per evaluator per month, and that's something that you would license individually from Checklick. However, any of the checklists that you license from other organizations, just the Navy League specifically, there's no charges for that on that end.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any raised hands, but is there any other questions? Oh,
Can I just, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have a couple questions in the chat if you're going to go there.
Okay, sorry, it's just all okay. Um okay.
I can read them off, Dominic. So are we adding start dates for the cadets? Is there a process to take them off strength in here as well? So when we put in a cadet, is there a way to say like their registration date? And then what do we do when they leave the program? That would be question number 1.
So I mean the registration, like as in when they were added to the Corps, or when the
So,
first evaluation was performed.
so I would say when they join the cadet program. So is there a way to like backdate if there's a cadet who's been in for a year and we're putting in their information because there's
Mhm.
a 2-year service medal, is there a way to say like date joined the program?
Yeah, so this is where these tags come into play. So you
Okay.
can use what we call tags here. And I didn't go into this yet, but like for example, if you go to our over here and you go to our help center, if you look at tags, for example, tag details here. So this is where my thought went to is using these tag details. So for example, if you wanted to create a tag name called I don't know, date joined or something like that, and then the tag detail would be the date. You can do that via what we call tags. So if I wanted to apply a tag to Christine, and I wanted to apply a tag, so I can go into their account and can create a tag that's called date enrolled or whatever I call it, and then I can add the tag detail, which would be, let's say, the date. So I don't know, 2020 06 07, and then I can add that tag. So if you wanted to, do a date enrolled tag, and then what you can do is once you apply those tags, you can see that when I click on the tag, you'll be able to see what the actual tag detail is. So the tags is a way for you to, if you wanted to organize your cadets in a certain fashion in your core, you can do that using these tags here, and you can apply any number of these tags and tag details. Okay, and maybe this is a good time to mention because I was using this functionality here, but if you click on our help center here and just click over here, when you go to our help center here, you could just type in anything like, for example, add people, and then you'll get, the best results here, how to add people or students. Now you'll notice that we use sort of generic terminology we use students and evaluators just to keep it generic. But if you look through this and, you see adding people, this is how you can add people or students. And likewise, there's other help articles here. I think we have about 158 articles or so in here that you can go through to help you out. Okay. And then further to that, you can always submit a ticket with us. As I mentioned, it goes to support@checklick.com. And when you submit that ticket, majority of our inquiries are answered within a couple of days. It just depends on the, just the volume of tickets that we're getting at that particular time. Okay. Is there any other questions in the chat there, Tennille?
Yep. What happens if a cadet leaves the Corps? How do we delete them or take them off strength?
Okay, so if you'd like to remove them, we mentioned that there's what we call those affiliations. So I'm just going to go back to the four. For example, Christine, you could see that there's this affiliated tag. So if I go to Christine and I want to remove Christine, I can remove this affiliation tag and I just click on the X and I remove them. Now, the key thing is that in order to fully delete an account, that person has to request that that account is deleted. The reason for it is because when you delete the account, it will likewise delete all of their evaluations as well. So if you delete the account, it's sort of if they have years of records here, those records will be wiped. That's why we go through our support channel and we sort of lay out the terms of what will happen when you delete that account because it is permanent and it can affect quite a few things.
So Dominic, just to be clear, there's no way we can show someone as active or inactive, correct? It's either they're in the system or they're not. Is that what you're saying?
No, what would you define as active or inactive?
They're on parade. They're parading each week. They're in the training. Okay. They've decided to leave the program one reason or another. They moved or they've went on to something else. Okay. We just want to be able to track that to say, core NLCC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 had 32 cadets and so on and so forth. So we've got the actual data that we can pull on in many different ways down the road.
So I would say that you can do that using tags, but
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
but you would have to sort of keep that up to date with those tags.
Okay.
Okay. Greg, sorry, before we, Greg, if you just give me 1 second here, is there any other questions in the chat?
Yep, just 1 second. Are division managers able to go in and change cadet information? They would be able to, but that's not the expectation. The expectation is they're not touching any of it. They're there to manage checklists, and it's the core manager who is there to manage the cadet information. So I can answer that one for you. And then can we arrange the order of the checklist in any order by level? Can you drag the checklists back and forth? Or
No,
do they show up?
no, they'll appear in the order. I believe they appear actually in alphabetical order. Okay. Is there any questions left in the chat?
That's it for the chat.
Okay, excellent. So Greg, you raised your hand.
Yeah, on the previous topic with the cadet leaving, okay, we can make a tag so they would show up as left. If so, that makes it easy if they change their mind because their family situation changes and they they want to come back and makes it easy to sort of change them through. Does that skew the statistics at all if you have a inactive tag, as far as core size goes? You have perhaps 10 people who might have needed to take off a leave of absence for some reason. And any thoughts on that?
I'm not sure that's a question for me because I think that that's something you'll just have to manage. Tennille, maybe you can jump in on that one.
Yeah, it's a great point, Greg. I wrote it down and I will try and figure out and play with the statistics and the analytics to see how I can figure that out to work best to suit our needs. So I will work on that.
Yeah, because it's not an uncommon circumstance,
No,
they
completely.
go to Europe for 2 months, but they're not going to be on strength or something.
Yep. No, it's a valid point, and I will for sure look into that.
Excellent. Neil, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I have a related question. So the tags seem like something that could be reasonably helpful, but let's say 10 years from now, you just want to know which cadets are active. Is there a way to hide cadets from this main list here, or are they just there
Uh, I mean,
for the future? Like,
I guess I'll clarify one thing is that um, there is reports. So, for example, these evaluations that we performed on Christine, Jenny, and Jim earlier, if I go to my reports, this may answer the question to some extent, Anil. The evaluation records here, you see how we have these three people here. I can download all of the individual records for those people, and the date of exactly when those records happen will all be in here. But if I remove them from here, meaning I de-affiliate them, that doesn't change anything in any of the history that I've performed in terms of the evaluations. So I can remove them from my records here, whatever the tags may be or not, I can remove them and de-affiliate them from my list over here. Does that sort of answer your question or?
so that tag that it says affiliated with core blah blah blah. If you remove that, they won't show up in this list.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, that answers my question.
Yeah. I thought that I saw in the chat here. Is there another question in the chat there, Tennille?
No, I'm answering it as I go. You're good.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. We do. Okay, Pat, you have a question?
Yeah, just quick. So far, I've seen a lot of stuff about training and that. Do we have any capability of keeping track of cadets' personal information at all, or is that all expected to go into tags? That might be more a question for Tennille. She's more familiar with the program. Like medical information is particularly what I'm thinking about.
So maybe I can answer that. So
Okay, sure, whatever.
in your core account here, you see how there's this additional information that you can add here. So see how
Mhm.
right now I have full address, phone, and whatnot. I have all of that as optional. If I check it off as mandatory, when I start entering all of my cadets, I can start tracking that information, or furthermore, I can create additional questions during
Okay,
that process, during the profile process. Okay,
excellent. Thank you. Yep, answer my question.
excellent. Any other questions? I do see in the chat. Okay, so I think that you answered that already, Tennille. Okay, it doesn't look like we have any further questions here. So I just wanted to mention, I sort of touched on this already, but in terms of the help resources, as I mentioned, there's that help center that we have that you can go through, and it has a whole bunch of articles there to help you as you're navigating through the system. If you have any trouble at all, you'll have a support@Checklick email that you can send us. Furthermore, in about a week or so, we're going to be launching a little chat flow, so you can talk directly to the little chat bot that comes up, and you ask a variety of questions there, and it'll sort of do its best to answer all of your questions. And then in terms of support from the Navy League, Tennille, maybe you just want to touch upon this, but here's the contact information here. You're on.
Hi. So, yeah, no, I'm just got a lot happening here. So in the case, we have national kind of team leads. So Brett Anderson is responsible for BC, Vancouver Island, and Alberta. Myself, I'm responsible for Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario. In the case, uh, in the case of the National Capital Region in Quebec, it's Commander Navy League Anne-Marie Fournier. In the case of the East Coast, it's John Phillips. Also, so Brett Anderson is the overall project manager of Checklick, and myself, I'm kind of the national office staff member assigned to the project. If you have any questions, if you email checklickhelp@navyleague.ca or add checklick@liguenaval.ca, those are automatically forwarded to myself, and we can help you out from there, or you can email me and we can divvy it up from there.
Fantastic.
So if I can just add something to Dominic and Tennille, it's Brett here, everyone. Just to remember, we're in a beta phase of this rollout. So this is really the part where we're coming up with the questions or the solutions or the additional information or the resources or how the training will be deployed on a bigger scale. Okay, so for those Navy League officers that are on this, that are part of the beta group, right? Your input, both good, bad, and ugly, is going to help us make this a successful launch, including the very, questions that you guys came up with tonight. Really simple stuff. Okay. There has been a lot of things done in the background that there are solutions already there or being worked on, and that comes from a number of different meetings that we've had, some initial meetings that we had with the beta group and 3 information sessions. Okay. So we'll come up with that and we'll be creating a FAQ document as well as some of the training resources and some of the training plans that are going to help you to be successful as beta testers and get us to the point where this application is going to achieve what we want it to. So we appreciate you taking the time and being with us here tonight with the introduction and some of the basic mechanics of Checklick. And we look forward to moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Brett. So on that note, we leave you with 5 minutes to spare. So thank you very much to everyone again. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there will be a video resource available for this. And Tennille, I believe that you'll have the Wordly transcript for all of this as well. So we will have resources for you that you can reference from this presentation. And again, thank you very much, everyone. And
Dominic, just before you jump off, can I quickly share my screen? Just because we had asked about the attendance list and like the personal information, I just want to show quickly, I was trying to find it before we left. If I can just share my screen quickly, I can show you, we talked about the health, like how we know the medical emergencies and whatnot. When you enter everything in for a cadet, so their name, their phone number, their health notes, and their emergency contact, this is what an attendance sheet will look like. So, Brett is allergic to DET and I'm allergic to fun. But Brett's EpiPen is in the ship's office in his backpack. Okay. So this is what the attendance sheet looks like with that information when it is filled out. So just wanted to share that. Sorry, Dominic.
No, that's excellent. Anything you want to jump in here with, go for it.
Nope, that was my point. Sorry.
Excellent. Okay. So yeah, as I said, we'll be sending you a recording on this, so it'll all be available for the group. And again, thank you very much, everyone, for jumping in on the call, and have a great evening.